welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor, and I am disabled, even though I don't look like it. I don't think I'm going to say that anymore. It feels weird. I was trying to try it on, but it just doesn't fit. It's like a bad dress that I try on and it just doesn't fit. We're going to go back to our normal opening. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. I like that more. Anywho, let's keep going. Our July book, I keep wanting to say June, but July is here, and July is my birthday month. So it's pretty exciting. I used to not get terribly excited about my birthday because I felt like other people didn't get terribly excited about my birthday. And then in sobriety, I realized it's my job to get excited about my birthday, not other people's jobs. It's my life and my birth. So here we are in July, and I think when I first moved into this house, I decided I was going to celebrate my birthday through the entire month of July. And I remember logging on to a meeting. It was the first year of COVID, and I was just determined to like truly celebrate myself. And I think that's really cool. This was before my stroke. So I spent the week, I went hiking in different places. I went to the pool. I did something new for myself every day. And yeah, it was really cool. I should do something similar. I mean, every day we should be celebrating ourselves, honestly. So let's keep going. The July book of the month, just a reminder, I introduced it yesterday. It is called Educated, a Memoir, and it's by Tara Westover. And if you listen to it on Audible, it's narrated by Julia Whelan, which is one of my favorite narrators. That's why I chose the book. Also, it has to do with resilience. So Tara Westover, the author, was born to survivalists in the mountains of Ohio. And she was 17 before she actually set foot in a classroom. Her family was so isolated from mainstream society that she didn't receive an education. And there was no one to intervene to make sure that happened. So when one of Tara's older brothers became violent and her other brother got into college, Tara decided to try a new kind of life. So her quest for knowledge transformed her. She ended up going over oceans and across continents to Harvard and to Cambridge University. Only then would she wonder if she traveled too far and if there was still a way home. So I'm excited about the book. It's just a little bit of a different kind of theme. I think we needed a change, but it's still, I think, about strength and resilience. So we'll see. Hopefully it's good. I think it had 5 stars by thousands of readers, I think. And then July's listener challenge, if you didn't hear about it yesterday, is to say hello to a stranger every day. If you want to say more, fine. If they want to say more, great. Just try it. Practice saying hello. And this can fulfill lots of different things in our social well-being. It can address social anxiety for some of you who may have that. I have it. It's not overwhelming to the point where I know a lot of people really shut down. They're so anxious around other people, but there is always a certain level of anxiety that I feel when I interact with new people. So This is just practicing. So you might end up creating some connections, and this hopefully will get you out of yourself a little bit. So engaging in even the smallest bit of social interactions can improve mental health. A little mindfulness, so you can also get out of here and get into the world and actually be very aware of your surroundings. And it's an act of kindness to just say hello to somebody else. So that's our listener challenge for this month. So good luck with that. And I did say hello to a stranger today. It was my handyman. And he wasn't a stranger anymore after he worked in my house all day long. So, but that counts. I swear it does. And he ended up being he's actually a master craftsman, I think is what they're called, which is amazing. It's amazing to me that everybody has their own special skills in life, and you don't know what they are, and by just looking at them, it's pretty amazing. So I don't know if this is going to shift over completely away from that topic. I don't know that I can gradually go into the topic of the day on that note, but I want to talk today about how responsibility can evolve into choice, willingness, passion, and desire. And here's the reason I wanted to talk about it is because in my sobriety program, there's something called the responsibility statement. And when I first got into the program, nobody said the responsibility statement. It's pretty much like, I don't have it pulled up, but wherever we are, it's our responsibility to try to share the message of Alcoholics Anonymous and share our experience, strength, and hope. And when I first heard the responsibility statement, so again, I didn't hear it like the first few years that I was in sobriety. I just was never in a meeting where they actually said the responsibility statement. So when I actually was in a meeting where they said it, I kind of stood there with my mouth, like maybe I even tried to move my mouth as if I knew what they were saying, but I didn't. You know what I'm talking about. When you're singing in church, that kind of thing. And anyway, when I heard the responsibility statement, I kind of felt a little icky. Like not that I don't understand, like I totally understand. It's our responsibility to share the message and try to help as many people as possible to get and stay sober. But at that time in my sobriety, it felt more like I was in church and I needed to convert other people. That's what it felt like. I'm just being honest. That's not what it is, but that's just what it felt like. And I wasn't completely, I guess, experienced in the program enough to know that that is far from what it actually is. But that's what I heard. So there it is. I'm laying it all out there for you. So I want to talk about exploring a deeper self-awareness that comes with recovery, sobriety, and stroke recovery, and how kindness, being kind to ourselves, plays a role in our journey, in our recovery, but also in how we encounter other people along the way. And that is that responsibility. So it ties back into the responsibility. So what I'll also share a bit about is how when I first heard this responsibility statement, I felt like it was my duty. That's how it came across to me. Today, as I share with you today on July 2nd, this doesn't feel like a responsibility anymore. It feels like a pleasure to me to be able to share my experience, strength, and hope. it helps me, so it's a choice. I'm willing, I'm super passionate about it. And every day, almost every day, I have a desire to sit here and talk about my experience, strength, and hope to help another person. So that's really, in a nutshell, what I wanted to talk about today. So, what I was thinking of, so this topic came up in my morning meeting, and what I was thinking this morning was I may not be able to see with my eyes as well as I used to, but through my experiences in my program, recovering from alcoholism, staying sober, going through this journey of stroke recovery and vestibular disorder, I've learned to see so much deeper inside myself. It's really been quite an experience to, for a while there, I really couldn't use my eyes hardly at all. I had them shut a lot. I had my eyes shut a lot. And when I didn't have them shut, I had like really, really dark glasses on. And even then I still had to like not move my eyes. I could only like stare at one place in order to not trigger my symptoms. It was really, really terrible. And what I learned from that experience, though, is how much more there is that I can see inside of me than when I'm so focused on what's going on around me. These life altering events, suffering from alcoholism, which is more than an event, it's really a lifetime, a lifetime celebration, we'll say. But also my stroke has given me this greater, I'll never be able to find the words to explain, greater understanding of my inner world, and has reshaped my view, my perspective on what my role is and what my responsibility is, to be a human among humans. A lot of times, well, me for sure, I was very harsh with myself. I treated myself differently than I would treat other people. For you mothers out there, you know what I mean by, if there's one last cookie, you give it to your kid. Maybe there's some of you who wouldn't, but I was one that would. If there were two cookies, both of my kids would get them and I wouldn't get any, that kind of thing. So, I'm learning to be kinder to myself, learning to nurture myself. And when I share my experience, strength, and hope, I'm not just selflessly sitting here talking to you guys. You lifetime listeners know I started this whole thing to help myself. So this whole thing is actually a completely selfish endeavor because I needed to use my voice in order to save myself. There was just, from where I was sitting, there was no way I was going to be okay if I just sat right inside here, inside my head. I had to use my voice. And I thought, if I can capture this process along the way, somebody else who may encounter the same issue won't have to learn the hard way like me. So that's what I'm doing. Yes, it evolved into something that was not selfish, but it really triggered, first of all, being I guess I was thinking about really step 5 of my sobriety program, which is to share my experience with another person. So that's what I decided to do. And I didn't know who to talk to because I couldn't just um, rely on my family constantly. And I didn't have the ability to find stroke support groups. I didn't know that I had a vestibular disorder. I didn't know what was wrong with me. So I just logged on to the internet and I'm like, I'm just going to broadcast what's going on and see if there's anybody out there that understands. And that's why we're here. So in this process, I'm listening to my own advice. There's a lot of times that I'm saying things here and I'm always very cognizant of making sure that nobody thinks that I'm full of shit because I'm not full of shit. I take my own advice and I try to be very honest about if I'm back at the beginning of last year, I was talking about starting up on yoga again, and I just can't seem to get fired up about yoga. So I try to be honest about that because I think that's the whole point is it's just not pretty. Recovery is not pretty. And there's been lots of episodes where I break down crying. There was one in particular I remember just completely breaking down crying, thinking about my kids, talking about my kids. And it may not have been as apparent on the microphone. That was before I went on video, but it certainly was. I felt terrible. I felt so sad on the inside. Um, so I try to be real here and when I get to listen to my own advice, saying these things out loud to you, it helps, it stresses for me because I'm trying to be kind and talk about self-awareness and being kind to ourselves. So when I hit stop recording, I need to continue to be listening to my advice for the rest of the day, night, until the next time I record. So self-kindness and self-awareness is something that I talk about because I need to do it. And I'm not perfect at it, no matter how many times I say it. So in the beginning, um, in the beginning of sobriety, let's see, the first time I went to detox, I was not willing to do whatever it took to get sober, and therefore I ended up drinking again. The second time I went to detox, every single thing they told me to do, I did it. And I truly believe, because I've seen it happen over and over again, when folks come into the program and they say, um, I can't do the steps because if I do, um, this is going to happen. I'm going to lose my marriage, we'll say, or I am not doing the whole God thing because God has completely left me, has completely screwed me in life. So I'm not going to do the God thing, which means I'm not going to do the steps. Or I'm going to pick and choose which step I'm going to do. I'm not going to do 2 and 3 because screw God, that's what I've heard. And the steps, the program AA does not require you to believe in God, period. It doesn't. Your higher power can be anything. It can be anything. All that matters is that you are not just trying to rely on your own intelligence and your own bravery and courage and yourself to get and stay sober. It's promoting community and sharing experiences so that you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to live emotionally alone. Even people who have spouses and children, and you don't feel alone. It's so helpful to have other people who have experienced the same thing as you. So you don't have to believe in all this uh, religious stuff or anything. It's that there's a reason why they say it's not a religious program, it's a spiritual program. And I'm 100% on board with that. When I started the program, I had my own concept of my higher power. And 8 years into this, it's continuing to evolve. And yes, I feel like a greater relationship with my own concept of God. I didn't used to even want to say the word God 8 years ago. But God itself, himself, whatever you want to say, is not my higher power alone. I have my own grand concept of the whole higher power thing. So, anyway, when I got into detox the second time, I knew it didn't work the first time when I wasn't willing to do it all. So the second time, I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna turn off my wanter. I'm gonna do whatever anybody tells me to do. You know, that supports my sobriety, obviously. And one of those things was to open my mouth and talk. And so I had a lot of stuff that I called, I said it was in my dark place. That's what I call it. It's a place inside of me where I put all the stuff that I don't want to deal with, all the stuff that doesn't feel good. It's a nice, cold, deep, dark place that I can stuff things in and I don't ever have to look at them again. The problem is that the more I stick down there, the more I want to stick down there. And the more the bigger that dark place is, until like at the beginning of when I first got sober, that dark place was really consuming me. I mean, my whole body, my whole mind, everything in me was the dark place. Sounds like a movie. But this willingness to talk about the stuff that was down in there was the first step. And then over time, over years of talking and sharing, and I've said this before, every time I opened my mouth, I would cry. Every single time I had to share, I would cry. And I know that I'm not the only one. There's lots of other people. It's the same thing. And I hear lots of them say, I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why I'm crying. I think I had an episode about that. I don't know. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. But I I didn't feel like I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I knew why I was feeling this way because I was in a lot of pain for a lot of years and I didn't talk about it. So in order for it to get out of me, it had to be squeezed through a whole bunch of tears and ugly crying. But once I got comfortable with doing that and practicing the steps, doing step 5, talking to another human being over time, um, I had heard about this responsibility. And so I knew when newcomers came into the rooms that I needed to approach them and introduce myself. I was not a big fan of like people like swarm, swarm, there's a new person in here. Because I didn't want to be approached that way either. So I try to lightly say hello and make sure they have what they need and then leave them alone. But there are other people who don't feel the same way about how you approach a newcomer, and that's fine too. But the same applies in stroke recovery and vestibular therapy. When we have somebody, and I've missed the meeting, I've missed all of my stroke and vestibular meetings for like the past couple weeks. I just have other things going on in my head, I guess, and I keep missing it. There was one today and I missed it again. Um, but when we have new people come in there, I take a piece of my sobriety program and take some time to welcome them. So I'll actually speak. I don't speak very much in those, but in these stroke and vestibular support groups, if there's somebody new, I will try to take some time to actually say, hey, I just wanted you to know that like once you get here, you're like family. And if there's anything you need, that kind of thing. So what started as feeling like a responsibility has really become more of a choice. I make a conscious decision to share my challenges and my successes, like however small they are. um, that responsibility of that I was told about in the beginning of AA really has become a willingness and a genuine desire to help others. The longer I've stayed in my sobriety program, it is more and more painful. Honestly, it's more painful to watch other people go in and out of the program or not make it back. And as I've continued to open up about some friends of mine that have passed, I've begun to, and really not just talking, but watching them take it in, what I'm saying. I've discovered really a passion for connecting with these people to provide hope because they're coming in with most likely with no hope. I mean, I didn't have any hope. I didn't even know the meaning of hope until, gosh, until I got several years sober. And if I'm being completely honest, because that's what I do here, after my stroke and going back to work and all that stuff for 2 years, and then last year leaving my job, I that experience this past year has really redefined my whole understanding of the word hope. Because hope for me today is the opposite of giving up. Because that is really the line that I have been on at this point, is am I going to pursue, am I going to be resilient? Am I going to pursue health, good health, or am I going to give up? Do I believe that I can still live a happy life or not? It's black and white to me now. That's what hope is. It doesn't, that doesn't mean it's a big, a big shift, meaning I can have a little bit of hope or a lot of hope. But it's still black and white for me. A little tiny itty bitty bit of hope is still hope, period. That's what I mean. And I want to be able to share that with other people. So I feel passionate And that desire has helped me to continue to grow in what I'm doing here, in trying to articulate that there is a solution to people in recovery, no matter what you're recovering from. I continue to educate myself and learn about, one thing that's interesting is when I started doing all of this and I was doing so much research and I was listening to all kinds of YouTube videos, I wasn't looking at them, I was just listening to them. I spent all day listening because I was educating myself on recovery and from a different perspective than I ever did before. And it's because I wanted to have some good content for these episodes. And before, early on, before I got too far, I ran across Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that's interesting to me because as I've continued to do it, I've built a lot of episodes on top of that. I think it was about a week or so that I was hyper focused on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It was really early on if you want to find them. Um, but I continue to run across so many other podcasts and books and everything about how much Maslow's hierarchy of needs plays into recovery. So it's been a cool journey. And because I want to help transfer that knowledge over to you all and to whatever newcomers end up here and find this podcast, I continue to educate myself and continue to try to learn how to share better, learn how to articulate the message better. So this willingness, openness, and honesty have been the cornerstones of me continuing to just chisel away at the struggles that I have in front of me, because I've still got a lot. But by being open and allowing myself to be vulnerable and real, I am having more opportunities in front of me as well, that I can embrace them as challenges that I want to face, instead of just crawling back in bed and putting the covers over my head, which is, I wouldn't put it past me. Seriously. I enjoy coming here every day because it allows me to be present. If I haven't been present for myself all day because I'm working on one of my millions of hobbies that I'm doing, my terrariums, my sewing, my bottle cutting, that's a new one that I'm going to be working on. But when I go through my day and I'm not really focused on recovery, it's so nice to come here and have this space with you to ground myself in the truth about who I am today. Because if I didn't do this, I would probably start dismissing the real difficulties that I face on a day-to-day basis. When I go outside and take my dog for a walk, let's say, I have been walking a little bit further. So I walk about 2 blocks now, sometimes 3. So I'm getting a lot better. And it's really because I've stopped trying to make my head stop triggering. Instead, I'm adapting. I'm adapting to what I need to do in order to walk further because I want to move my body so that maybe my back will stop hurting. But one thing that I did both yesterday and today is we're getting our deck redone. So I was looking around at different decks, and didn't take long for me to recognize you can't do that. You're really, really triggering your head right now. And so um, I had to look down at the road or the sidewalk and look at a big chunk of it. Like meaning I can't look at a rock that I'm passing or, a line on the sidewalk that I'm passing because that makes me sick. So I have to look kind of at a whole square of sidewalk, and then my head gets back to normal. Oh my gosh, I think I have to sneeze. Excuse me. That was live. We are not cutting that out. Live action. Okay. So when I have something like that happen, when I recognize, okay, you got to stop looking at decks, you need to focus on something, in front of you and blah, 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 everything that I learned at vestibular therapy. And then I adapt and I keep going. That's going to be like a distant memory by the time I get home. I'm going to forget that that even happened. And it's important that I remember that that happened so that next time I go out there, I am training myself and I know what to do and what not to do. And this space that I have with you every day is a time to hyper focus on my well-being. And I'm just talking about it out loud. And it just allows me to, again, ground myself in the truth of who I am. Right, version 3.0. So what I'm trying to articulate to you is that this responsibility that I heard about early on came across to me like almost like it was going to be a burden, like it was something, oh no, I have to talk to strangers. Like I have to talk to people I don't know about it just came across to me like, I don't want to have another requirement. I'm already trying to stop drinking. I have to go to meetings, I have to I had to go to a professional therapist as well. I don't want to have to talk to newcomers too. Um, so if you are new in the program, don't think of it as, honestly, don't even think about it right now. You need to be focused on your own well-being. And I think that's what was happening was I wasn't ready. And it translated to me as a burden, as a conversion technique, or, but as I've stayed in the program longer and my life has started to change, I want to be open. I'm willing to try to inspire other people, but I don't have to try very hard. What I thought when I heard about this as a responsibility was that I was going to have to try to convert people. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just sharing my experience, strength, and hope. And if it inspires people, then it is a successful day. If I stay sober and I'm able to help somebody else, absolutely. It's that ripple effect that I was talking about recently. So how can we uh, apply this responsibility um, into our daily lives to be a source of hope and inspiration. Um, just be willing to share your experience, strength, and hope. That's it. Just be willing. The openness, being willing to talk. It's, I think I'm focused a lot on this idea about how people don't talk to each other much as they used to because we've got all these digital devices. You don't even have to go to the grocery store anymore. There's lots of spouses that met each other at the grocery store, but you don't even have to do that anymore. And so I guess I'm just trying to continue to celebrate the our voice and how much we can help each other if we use it, if we don't hide and sit in our own challenges or our successes. Like, don't sit in it. Talk about it. Talk about your experience. Talk about opportunities ahead of you and how you think you're going to handle it. Because most likely there's somebody who's going to hear what you're saying and they've got a similar challenge and you guys can face them together. Um, you'll notice that the more you talk to people and you see their face shift from hanging to lifting, that for me, it just like ignites my spirit and I just want to chase it. It, it makes my life much more vibrant and meaningful to be able to like say hi to a stranger and say, your garden is really beautiful, you know, and we don't know what's going on in these other people's lives. So I feel like this responsibility that I was introduced to in early sobriety has really become a desire, like this powerful force for good that I can participate in, and I can do it with all of my symptoms and stuff. I think I feel very strongly that my voice is um, is something that I'm going to be highly dependent on for the rest of my life. That's what I told anybody who I mentioned that I was starting a podcast. I said, I still have my voice because I felt like I had lost so much, but we still have our voice. And I recognize that there are so many stroke survivors that have lost their voice. But they find ways to help each other also. That's why I think it's amazing to go to the stroke recovery support groups because I see it. I see that responsibility that that survivors, folks in recovery of all kinds, they feel that they have a responsibility to share their experience, strength, and hope with other people. So, and it truly does um, become a choice over time. It becomes a passion. There are folks that have had a stroke or have had a vestibular disorder for decades, and they still show up every single week or month to the support groups in order to keep their own mental and emotional well-being in check and to help other people. And the same applies for sobriety. So I just think recovery as a community is such a beautiful thing, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it. And I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep coming back here and talking to you guys about it. So I hope you keep listening. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Recovery Daily podcast. I'll talk to you tomorrow.